Psychic stocks. Belief shapes finance.
We're traveling back in time to ancient Mesoamerica. We're talking Aztecs, Incas, Mayans, and their whole view of wealth.
It is a really interesting mix, yeah. We've got excerpts from academic books, like real deep dives into their economies and rituals, some anthropology stuff too. Oh, and even some modern philosophy sprinkled in.
It's like Indiana Jones meets Wall Street.
I like that. We're going to unearth how these civilizations invested, what they believed about all that wealth, and who knows, maybe even uncover some ancient wisdom that modern investors can use today.
Oh, I'm always up for some ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
Especially if it involves treasure.
Well, then let's start with the Aztecs. I mean, we all know they had gold, right?
Oh, yeah. Tons of gold.
But their idea of wealth, it went way beyond just shiny stuff. They had this really intricate system where cacao beans, like actual chocolate, were practically currency.
Wait, so they were using chocolate as money?
Pretty much. And they considered staple crops like cotton and maize as super valuable assets too. Imagine building your portfolio based on chocolate and corn.
That's a portfolio I can get behind. But how did their, beliefs play into all this?
Oh, that's the really fascinating part. The Aztecs believed that prosperity came from being in sync with the gods, like Tlaloc, the god of rain and fertility.
Right. Rain equals good crops equals good economy.
Exactly. And then there's Centinodal, the god of maize. Having their favor meant good harvests, which meant a thriving economy.
So it wasn't just about hard work. It was about pleasing the gods to make sure everything was abundant.
Exactly. And each social class had their own way of kind of investing in divine favor. You had the nobles, the Pippleton. They constructed these huge temples like the Temple of Mayor.
Oh, wow. I've seen pictures of that. It's massive.
Right. It was a big display of their spiritual power, a way to honor the gods. Think of it as like a giant investment in keeping the universe in order.
Talk about a power move. But what about the merchants, the Pochteca? Weren't they like the ancient world's traveling salespeople?
And a little bit like spies, too. Gathering information along their trade routes. Real risk takers, those guys. And they had their own god, Yakatecutli, the god of commerce.
A god of commerce. That's kind of cool.
They would shower him with offerings to protect their caravans and make sure their business ventures went well.
So, like divine insurance.
You could say that. It seems like for the Aztecs, everything was connected to their religious beliefs, their social structure, the way they made money, everything.
That's pretty amazing.
And we see that reflected in how the commoners, the Mesoamerican, invested too. Their focus was on farming, contributing to community projects.
The practical stuff.
Yeah, and making offerings to keep those gods happy. They believed this ensured not just their own well-being, but the survival of their whole community.
It's like they understood that what they did to make a living was part of the bigger picture.
Exactly, connected to their community and the gods. Now let's switch gears. Head south to the Inca Empire. They're quite different from the Aztecs, especially when it came to how they managed wealth.
How so?
Well, the Incas had a super centralized system. At the top, you had the Sapa Inca, the emperor. He was seen as the son of the sun god, Inti.
Wait, so their leader was like a living god?
Basically, yeah. And he embodied divine wealth. Everything belonged to him, but it was held in trust for the people.
Interesting. So they had like a communal idea of wealth, not really individual investment.
Right. They believed that by honoring Inti and Pachamama, the Earth Mother, the Sapa Inca ensured prosperity for the whole empire.
Through offerings and rituals and stuff?
Exactly. And let me tell you, their investments were impressive. The Sapa Inca funded those huge projects like the Capaquian.
That's that massive road system, right?
Yep. It stretched across the whole empire. And of course, there's Machu Picchu.
That incredible city in the Andes Mountains.
It wasn't just about engineering for them, though. Those places were sacred. They had deep spiritual significance.
They were playing the long game, investing in things that would benefit people for generations.
Exactly. But while the Sapa Inca was in charge, the communities, called islas, were vital too. They did all the farming using these amazing terracing techniques to make the most of the land.
The Andes are pretty steep. I bet terracing helped a lot.
Definitely. And their labor was a kind of tax called mita, which helped fund those big public works.
Clever system. It's like they weaved their work and beliefs into their economy. A whole cycle of give and take between the people, the emperor, and the gods.
Exactly. And we can't forget the priests. They managed the spiritual side of the empire's wealth, maintaining those sacred sites like Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun in Cusco.
I've heard those temples were full of gold and silver.
They were. It represented the divine favor given to the Inca Empire.
Wow. So we've got chocolate portfolios, god kings, communal wealth, two very different approaches to wealth and investment. But there's one more civilization we need to visit, the Mayans.
Ooh, the Mayans. Now, they are a fascinating bunch. Unlike the Aztecs and Incas, they weren't a single unified empire. They had these independent city-states, each with their own king and their own way of looking at wealth. But what connected them was their understanding of time, like cycles, and how these cycles impacted their lives, especially their economies.
So, like, they were the original day traders, obsessed with market timing.
Well, maybe. Their calendar, the Solcan, was so much more than just telling the date. It was a tool, to align their actions with, cosmic energy to guarantee prosperity. They believed that by understanding these cycles, you could make decisions that brought wealth and success.
So instead of, making offerings to gods like the Aztecs or having a god king like the Incas, the Mayans were all about decoding the cosmos to get ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't have one single currency like the Aztecs with their cacao beans.
Right.
They valued things like jade, obsidian, and quetzal feathers.
And those super bright green ones, right?
Exactly. But those weren't just pretty things. They had deep meaning, represented power, status, even a connection to the divine.
Kind of like how we see luxury items today, or those rare collectibles. They're worth more than just their practical use.
You got it. Here's what I find really interesting. The Mayans, they saw knowledge as the ultimate wealth.
Makes sense. Knowledge is power.
Think about it, they're priests. They held all the astronomical knowledge, the religious knowledge. They had huge influence.
They were like the ancient world's financial advisors, guiding everyone with their cosmic insights.
Exactly. Makes you wonder if modern investors could learn a thing or two. Instead of just chasing the latest trends, maybe we should focus on, really understanding market cycles, those economic principles.
Deepen that knowledge to make smarter decisions.
Now, let's not forget about the Mayan gods. They weren't as directly involved in economics as the Aztec gods, but they were still important. Take Chak, the rain god, crucial for those harvests. Or Ixchel, the goddess of fertility and weaving. She also oversaw trade.
Interesting. So even with all that focus on cosmic cycles, they still understood the importance of getting those good vibes from the gods for economic success.
Absolutely. And just like with the Aztecs and Incas, each social class had their own way of investing. The Mayan nobles, the Aja.
Those were the rulers, right?
Yep. They built those massive ceremonial centers, Chichen Itza, Tikal. Those weren't just impressive buildings, they were offerings to the gods, showing their divine right to rule and that they were dedicated to maintaining cosmic order.
It's interesting how each civilization used these giant constructions to show off their power.
Yeah.
And their connection to the divine.
Definitely. And then you had the Mayan merchants, controlled huge trade routes across Mesoamerica.
They got around.
Dealing in jade, obsidian, salt, cacao. They even had their own god, Echua, the god of merchants and cacao, to make sure their ventures were successful.
So even with their different approaches, each civilization had a god specifically for commerce, for prosperity.
Exactly. And those Mayan merchants, just like the Aztec Pochteca, adventurous, willing to take risks, navigating dangerous routes to build their wealth.
It really is amazing to see how these civilizations, even though they were separated by time and location, shared similar beliefs about wealth and the role the divine plays in achieving it. It makes you think, maybe these beliefs are just hardwired into us.
How do these ancient Mesoamerican beliefs connect to what modern investors, like you, believe about money and markets? It's like holding a mirror up to our financial beliefs and seeing those ancient ideas reflected back at us.
Okay, I'm ready to see what those reflections look like. Let's uncover that ancient wisdom and see how it applies to the crazy world of modern finance. We've been on quite the journey through the worlds of the Aztecs, Incas, and Mayans, seeing how they viewed wealth and all the mystical beliefs tied into their money decisions.
We've seen how they incorporated their understanding of the cosmos, the divine, and community into their investment practices.
But now we're getting to the really interesting part, connecting those ancient practices to why you, a modern investor, believe the things you do about money.
Okay, so let's start with the Aztecs and their diverse portfolio of assets.
Right. They weren't just sitting on piles of gold. They had cacao beans, cotton, maize, a real mix of stuff.
And that brings us to a key principle for modern investors: diversification.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread that risk around.
Exactly. Diversification. It's like the foundation of how we build portfolios today. The Aztecs knew the value of having a multifaceted approach to wealth. And modern investors, we see it the same way. Diversification helps you ride out those market storms and achieve long-term financial stability.
So diversification, that's lesson number one from our ancient Mesoamerican mentors.
Okay, now let's shift to the Mayans and their fascination with time and cycles.
They were convinced that understanding those cosmic cycles was essential for success in every part of life, including, of course, how they handled their money.
And that brings us to a concept deeply embedded in modern investing.
Timing.
Ah, yes, the age-old art of buying low, selling high. Easier said than done, though, right?
You got that right. Modern investors spend so much time analyzing charts, looking for trends, figuring out the best time to make a move for those maximum returns.
It's like the Mayans using their crazy complex calendars to figure out the best times for, planting, harvesting, even going on trading expeditions. Our tools may be different. Algorithms, indicators, forecasts. But that underlying idea is the same. Timing is crucial in how our investments turn out.
Diversification and timing. Two ancient lessons that are surprisingly relevant even today.
But maybe the most insightful thing we can learn comes from looking at the purpose behind all that wealth for the Mesoamericans.
Right. It wasn't just about getting rich for the sake of it. It was tied to a bigger purpose. Pleasing the gods, taking care of their communities, building a legacy for future generations.
And this echoes a trend that's growing in modern investing. Purpose-driven investing, or values-based investing.
Yeah, putting your money where your values are. Supporting companies and causes you believe in, making the world a better place.
The ancient Mesoamericans wanted to keep that cosmic balance through offerings, rituals. Modern investors, they're using their investment choices to create a positive impact.
It's like recognizing that wealth can be a force for good, building a world that's more sustainable, fair, just.
So as you're out there navigating the crazy world of investing, remember that ancient wisdom.
Diversify like the Aztecs. Be mindful of timing like the Mayans. But most importantly, align your investments with what you believe in. Because wealth, it's not just about the numbers. It's about your values, your vision for the future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Maybe by tapping into those ancient principles, we can actually create a more prosperous, fulfilling future for ourselves and everyone who comes after us.
That's a pretty inspiring way to wrap up our Mesoamerican adventure. Turns out, these ancient civilizations still have a lot to teach us about wealth, purpose, and our place in the universe.
Until next time, happy investing.
Psychic Stocks. Belief shapes finance.